Hello everybody, welcome back to our JavaFX tutorials. Today we're going to continue on with our To-Do app, and we're going to insert tasks into our To-Do app. It's a big part of our To-Do app. We have to insert things that we're going to do. So, as such, here we go, essentially. Here, let me close this out so we don't have any disturbance. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is have a database table for us to actually insert our things, right? So here we go. Let me just navigate to where my project is. Mine's called ToDoapp Insert. Yours is probably just still called ToDoapp. I had to make a bunch of different projects so I could, divide up the code for you guys. So navigate to there in Windows, and then you shift and right click in Windows. Again, this probably won't work somewhere else, but anyway, and then you can open a command window here, and then we can get to the SQL stuff here. So when we're inserting tasks, we need to decide what fields tasks are going to have, like what database fields. I've already made a decision, and I'm just going to show you what I decided. But I'm not an expert database designer. I mean, maybe there's a lot better way to do this. But anyway, I've edited our make table query, our SQL file that we used earlier in the earlier tutorials. I've edited it to contain this. We create a table called tasks, where tasks have a title, a location, notes, and something called a timing. Title, location, and notes are all pretty self-explanatory text fields. Timing is a date time data type, which SQL has a strange sort of way of handling dates. Date time actually accepts many different kinds of formats of dates in string form, but assigning it as a date time allows us to do certain things with it that we wouldn't be able to do with normal text. Now, I've assigned our timing to be a primary key. If you guys know anything about databases, primary keys you cannot have multiple entries of the same primary key. So by assigning this as the primary key, I've made a constraint on our application. Our application cannot have any two tasks that have the same timing or the same time. I call it timing because there's a lot to it, but it's going to be like when you do the task, like, tomorrow at 3, that will be timing. Okay. Anyway, the point is that you can't have multiple things with the same primary key. So in my app, how I'm making it, you're not going to be able to have two things happen at the exact same time. Realistically, if this were a real production app, you'd probably want to assign some kind of unique ID to these tasks. When you insert them into the database, have like a unique ID and have that be the primary key. But for simplicity, I'm just doing this. Okay. So you want to go ahead and create this table. If you guys remember, it's .open first.db is the name of my database file that is there. Okay, here it is. And then you do .read, and then you just do your SQL statement. And see, I've already made it, so it doesn't make any sense for me to run it, but you should run that. And then we're going to insert into our tasks table like this, right? The same way we insert into our users table. Insert into tasks. Then we have all the fields in parentheses, and then we have the word values to indicate we're about to list the values. Then in parentheses we have all of the values here. This would be the title, location, notes, haha, humorous. Okay, right, these are the 3 text fields, and then note here this date time. Okay, this date time is in year, month, day, space, hour, minute, seconds. And this is just one of many different formats for date time that are acceptable, but this is the one I'm going to use. Okay, so you need to decide what you're going to use and then stick to it throughout. I'm going to use this so when I'm trying to parse the string, I know that index 0, 1, 2, 3, 0 to 3 is going to have the year. Okay, so I have that. So you don't actually need to run this code to insert that, but if you want to, just keep in mind this is how we will insert in our code. Now, okay, here's where we're going to be at the end of this tutorial. Okay, username, password, login. Home page, I've added an insert task and view task button. Then we click insert tasks, we have this thing here with lots of new stuff. We haven't seen these, we haven't seen this date picker thing, so I'm going to explain that. So the first thing you want to do is, let's see, fxml homepage. Open that up. Maybe that'll open. Okay. You want to add these extra buttons. Okay. And then we'll have a insert button action for our homepage controller, right? right, and here is the insert button action, and we're loading our new fxml for insert page, and then we're going to load it just like we load every other thing. You can use the same code that we're using to load, from fxml document, aka login, to home page. You can use that same code here, just change some things. Okay, and I've gone ahead and created a new fxml and a new controller for insert page, and you can do that if you recall by clicking on the package, new, empty fxml, name it whatever you want, use a Java controller, name it whatever you want, but keep with convention. Whatever your convention is, keep with it, but I think this is standard. Then if you have CSS, you can add it, right? So you can go ahead and create your insert page like that. I've already done that, so I'm not going to do that. And then our insert page, here's the real meat. Okay, here we go. So I've made these labels, which are of little significance really, to just let the user know what they need to insert. Then we have text, here we go, text fields that we've already worked with, title text, location text, these are the FX IDs, okay, notes text. And then we have this really cool new thing that we've never used before called a date picker. Okay, I thought that I would have to, have them enter in the date using text fields, which is horrible for them and horrible for me because then I have to parse it. But instead, JavaFX has this really cool date picker thing that allows them to click on this little calendar and then just choose a date, and then there you go. It'll show up as a date. Here I have hours, minutes, and AM, PM. Okay, so these are menu buttons, and keep in mind when you slap down a menu button on your thing, the pop-up side is probably going to be bottom. I think that's the standard. I've just changed it to right because I just feel like it. I mean, it really doesn't matter. But okay, so a menu button, when you create a menu button, you will click a little plus sign. There will be 2 menu items, okay, and then you edit what these menu items are, right? Because when you click it, there's going to be a little drop down of items, and you need to edit what those are. And for each of these menu items, I've assigned an action, okay? So we have our menu item button action, and it's kind of quite a tongue twister. Okay, so let's look real quick at my insert page code. What that action does is it gets the source of where the event happened, and then it sets the our menu button text to what we just clicked. Okay, and the behavior will be sort of what you expect. Here, let me just go ahead and run it to show you. The idea is, when we click on a menu item, it's going to change the text of, right, so here's our menu items that I've set up here, okay? See, I've set them up, and you can add more menu items by, taking one Control-C, Control-V into there. There's plenty of ways to make a new menu item. Anyway, now I click on it, and it changed the text, okay? And you need to assign these menu items, because that's not the default behavior. I know it seems like that should be the default behavior, but that is not the default behavior, okay? So what you need to do is, create a function that, or create an action event for these menu items to where it sets their corresponding menu item, it sets their corresponding menu button text to what you just clicked, okay? So I've done that for all of the various menu buttons. And keep in mind here, I've created instance variables for each of the menu buttons, the done button, and for each of the text, because we're going to grab those things and then we're going to insert into our database. So I just want to be able to just access these locally. So that's why I've set up all this. Okay, so I've created FX IDs, etc. Okay, so with that explanation out of the way, we've set this up. Oh, okay, we've set this up. We have our done button action here, and what this is going to do, when they click the done button, we're going to pull all the stuff out of all these fields and we're going to put it into our database in this way. Okay, so we're going to essentially just make this query right here using the stuff that's in that they've inserted into the form. Okay, so let's go to our done button action. So I have a string hour value. The first thing I do is just grab the grab the hour menu button text. The reason I'm doing this is for our AM PM stuff. We check the AM PM button, and if it's PM, then we add 12 to the value. You're going to be saying, like, why? Okay, keep in mind, guys, our hours values are just 1 to 12. So what if it's 3 p.m. as opposed to 3 a.m.? Well, we're going to go with military time here. Military time, instead of 0 to 12, it goes, or not 0 to 12. Instead of 1 to 12, well, yeah, instead of 1 to 12, it goes to, to 24. So 3 p.m., okay, here's the main thing. 3 p.m. in military time is 15 hours, okay? 1500 actually is what they call it, right? So the idea, so we're going to add 12 if they do 3 p.m. and we're going to store it in our database like that, okay? So this, it's 3:40, this is 3:40 a.m., okay? And this is going to be 3:40 p.m., okay? Because we're just going straight through to 24, okay? So you get that, okay? And then with that in mind, we will, this is just handling that. Then we're creating our query very similar to what I mentioned earlier. We're just going to create this query using all the stuff. And again, I've created instance variables for this. We're using we're getting the text out of all the stuff they've typed in, and we're just going to make that query. Okay, so, the date picker, we use get value instead of get text. I suggest you just either pause and look at this code until you understand it to an extent, or, just download the code and then, use that. Then, I just have a little print statement telling us what our insert statement is, sort of a debugging thing. Now I don't need it because I know this works, but at the time I was checking. And then I've created a helper function to insert statements. So here it is, the actual helper function. Content, it takes in our insert query. And just like when we were selecting out of our database, we need a lot of the same opening calls. We need to create a new connection, a new statement, all of this set up. We've already manipulated the database, so this stuff shouldn't be new to you guys. You should already know this. The main salient difference here is we have this statement.execute update. Whenever we're inserting or updating, we need to do .execute update, okay? And then we just put in our query that inserts or updates, okay? Close, commit, etc. Catch the stuff. And that's really all we need. Here I've included other code to change back to the home page after they insert. That might not actually be a behavior that you want necessarily in your app, but I've done that. This is the same code we're using to change the home page from fxml document. Okay, it's the same code. Copy and pasting is maybe not the best way of doing things, but that's what it is. Okay, so we're all set up. We have our awesome new fxml. We've set it to where the menu items change the text here, and then we've set up the infrastructure to grab all of the text out of all of these fields and the value out of this field and insert it into the database. So let's take a look. Okay, we're going to select all from task, and I've already inserted a bunch of stuff, so it's going to be ugly. Okay, here's a bunch of ugly stuff I've inserted. And now we have our stuff already open. We're going to have a new one. I'm just going to call it finally. Like finally he's actually doing what he promised us we would do. Let's see, my house is where that's going to be. There's going to be, the notes are going to be, it works. I hope anyway that it works. Okay, our date picker. Click on this thing. It's just, random time. Okay, before Christmas, somewhat, a couple years from now. Okay. We're going to put 9, and here I've made this increments of 5. That's again a design decision. Okay, you don't necessarily, it might be that you want to have different increments, in which case maybe menu button's not the best thing, but I've just made it increments of 5. Then we'll make it PM, and then I will hit done. Okay, we're back to the home page via my code. Now we're going to use the up arrow to access what we just typed. And then, aha, here is the stuff inserted into our database. And then notice how our AM PM thing worked. I entered in 9 PM, right? Okay, and we added 12, so it's 2140, because it was 9:40 PM, and now we made 2140 via military time, right? So we have where we can insert tasks into our database. So what's going to be up next is viewing and editing and otherwise manipulating these tasks, but we're on our way. So I'll see you next time.